What's up, dudes and dudettes of the internet? My name's Scythe, and today we're going to be taking a look at Astroneer. While I do definitely plan on starting a Let's Play series of this game because it's absolutely fantastic, I love this game. I've been keeping track with it for about a year ago. I ended up seeing footage of it and wanted to check it out, and well, now it's finally here. Now, granted, the current version that we're playing right now is pre-alpha, and it does have a lot of bugs to keep in mind, but I will talk about those as we get a little further into the game. I just wanted to show you the seamless and insane production of this game, where you actually just get to choose any type of character that you want out of this beginning section here. That's all there really is to the customization of the characters. You can choose a tall skinny guy, a short fat guy, a generic astronaut, and an even thinner astronaut, I guess. And then as soon as you end up clicking play, we are getting launched into this polygon voxel world down here, where it is actually currently randomly generating the terrain and everything like that, because every time you start a new file, it's going to be a completely new a new planet, you know? Like, you're always going to end up starting on this first starting planet. I'll talk more about that a little bit later, but the fact of the matter is that this area that you start right here is going to end up being different every time. For example, the other file that I ended up having, there was actually no sand and no plants and stuff like that around. But either way, before we get started with that, folks, would very much appreciate if you would hit that like button as well. And otherwise, I mean, just look at it. Already, it's absolutely beautiful. There's just something about it that I just love. And immediately, like, the thing that I love about the production of this game too is there's no HUD. All of it has to do with in-game indicators and menus and stuff like that. And while the game doesn't necessarily give you a tutorial, it kind of teaches you through visuals. So right now they're just trying to teach us, you know, use the terrain tool. So we pull this thing out, and this is the meat of the game, where if we left click, we can dig. And you can dig to the center of the earth, but you can see on our backpack right here, this is our energy regenerating in. And it's going to regenerate passively, as well as later on you can end up getting, you know, solar power, so that it actually generates when it's daylight wherever you are on the planet. You can end up getting batteries that you can end up charging with generators and organics and stuff like that. But while you have the tool out, you can also hold Alt, and that's going to build upwards, or refill in a hole, or maybe you're trying to get from one area to another, and let's just say, for example, something like this. Let's say that we're over here and there's a big pit in front of us or something. We just keep pulling this towards us, and you don't have to worry about getting any blocks or anything. It's just about the power. So you could end up doing something like this to pull this all the way over to us. And luckily, we ended up generating with an energy resource right here. So you're gonna randomly see columns like this up on the surface of planets, and these are going to be continuously renewable resources. So there's going to be other resources that you'll go out into the world and find that are only temporary. You're going to be able to mine them once, and then they're going to be gone for good. But things like this, you're going to be able to continuously mine. And as you can see on our gun, as we mine this resource, it's starting to fill up, right? And once we end up getting enough of the given resource that it becomes a full item that actually can be used in crafting and stuff like that, it's actually going to attach itself to our backpack. Now, a lot of the resources actually have very big parts to play in their own very small way. You know, like even right now, you may not notice it, but as we're actually using our tool right now, this is power, raw energy. And because of it, as you see, we weren't actually draining any of our battery. Instead, we were draining from this power supply, right? So that, quite simply put, is what this resource is, where do you want to trade an inventory slot for more power? And that's the thing that's so cool about it, you know? Now, nighttime is going to end up coming around, and it is not really the funnest, honestly speaking. It's fine when we're playing, like if you're just playing in your own time, but as far as a video is concerned, well, we'll see what happens. I do want to see if this ends up coming into play, but otherwise I do want to show you that if you hover over your character, you can see all the different directions, northeast, southwest, and this blue meter just on top of our shoulder right here, that is actually your oxygen, so that's going to end up going down as we're away from our ship and stuff like that. Now, every now and then you're going to find plants like this that you can end up grabbing research nodes off of. They're not always going to generate with a research node, but most of the time you're going to be able to grab one of these things and bring it back to home base. Now, the way that you actually gain oxygen is this tether right here. That's going to be a very, very pivotal part to play, because so long as I can get some of these other resources, here's going to be some of the, what do they call this one? Resin, that's right. So resin is going to be one of the primary resources. You use this one just for crafting a lot of the very basic structures and stuff like that. Well, I wouldn't really say structures, but needless to say, they're going to throw a lot of it to you right by your spawn, and then not much else, right? The other thing too, I just want to say in passing, is if you hold control and use the dig tool, it's going to actually flatten out the terrain, but generally speaking, I find it to be a little bit finicky. Now, if we actually, like, you're gonna notice as we're turning the camera around, this little pod right here is actually turning around with us. So if we click on that right now, we are actually selecting and telling it we want to build something out here. So we're gonna take the resin. You could end up just clicking, selecting the resin and putting it on manually, or in most cases, you can just click on the resource required and it's just automatically gonna take it off of your backpack, right? Now, what we could do is continue this build, go out further, or just build from the start again. Or, so long as we have enough resin, we can build a full-on structure. So let me just get this out of the way. And now, this is where the bulk of the game ends up coming in, because we can make a printer, which you actually use to craft different building supplies. Like you might craft, like, you might be able to see it on camera, sorry if you can't, but there's a little bit of a wind gust coming right now. So we could actually use the printer to build a fan that we would attach to the side cufflinks here that would then generate energy for the structure, because any of the structures, so long as you're using them, are all going to end up taking energy, right? To end up actually using or crafting any of the items that they give. But the printer ends up generating big power supplies, and our backpack can kind of end up generating smaller power supplies, which I'll show you all that in a little bit here, because otherwise we don't have any of the resources. But copper is something that you're gonna go and find out in caves and stuff, because there's actually caves all around the place. Research is what we're gonna be going for right off the hop, because what a research station is going to do is you're gonna be able to put these unknown resources on top of it, and then take a bunch of energy to actually research the item. And it's going to either just open up that rock and give you a raw resource, could end up being something rare, or it could end up just being something very common. But the big thing that you're going to be grinding for is blueprints, where it's going to actually give you something else that you can actually craft. But as you get further in the game, of course, that's going to end up being a rarer and rarer item, right? The smelter, simply put, as you go and get copper raw from underground, you're going to have to smelt it in order to actually use it. However, you could find fully complete copper that's already in ingots. I guess we'll say that, just Minecraft terminology here. You could end up finding it just out in the world on crashed ships and stuff like that. But how do we end up exploring? Well, that's where the tethers come into play, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The vehicle bay, simply put, you can actually construct a rover, which is very expensive at first to end up constructing. And then once you end up having the thing, it takes energy as well. So you can either make it solar power or wind power, or just put on a ton of batteries that you just charge at a station and then bring it out and, you know, drive around with it. The good thing about the rover is because then you can carry some of the heavier equipment that you can't carry on your person, right? But then also, more interestingly, there is also a spaceship that you can end up constructing at the vehicle bay. And legit, like this, that's what's so cool about this game, is this whole planet already has enough depth to it in the first place. But if you end up constructing a ship, you're gonna have to get fuel and stuff like that, obviously, but you're going to be able to rocket off into outer space and visit other worlds, which is very, very cool. However, I will give a heads up about that, because I ended up doing that, landing on a new foreign world that didn't seem to have a lot of the resources that I needed to get back home. So I kind of ended up stranded there, and unfortunately ended up it was very, very deadly. There was pretty much Sarlacc pits, which is like, well, if you don't know Star Wars, rip, just look it up. But needless to say, legit, there were starlight pits everywhere, and it kept killing me, and eventually I just lost more and more of my supplies. Now, if you end up dying, all you end up doing is respawning at the station here, or if you have a vehicle, you'll end up respawning at that, and you're just going to end up dropping your backpack. So any of the items that you have on your person are going to be left at your body that you're just going to have to then recover. And then otherwise, that seems to already be it for these basic supplies. Otherwise, a little bit later, you know, like I said, you're going to end up getting other blueprints and stuff like that. So let me see if I can find a compound, because that's one of the big, most important things. Now, another thing too, just I'll say passively as we're going out here, is all of these plants and stuff, you can actually mine those out to get organics. Those come into play if you end up giving yourself a personal generator, because you can actually trade one of these to power up your generator, which gives you infinite battery for a short period. Now, the thing that's really cool about this game, also, here we go, we got some aluminum that we can just throw in our backpack, and some hydrazine, which is for the rocket, which means that technically speaking, we wouldn't end up using something like that for a long time. Now, here's the compound that we end up needing, but I want to show you this right here is another one of those renewable resources. And blue, while yellow is always going to be power, blue is actually going to be oxygen. And this game's very, very smart with its system, where as we're mining this, it's going to put it into our oxygen directly before it actually starts collecting it on our gun, and then potentially could end up becoming a full inventory item. Now, if you don't end up actually getting it as a full inventory item, it's not going to go on your backpack, it's going to stay on your gun, and it's not going to actually draw power from that. But right now, you're going to see that our oxygen is going to be just fine, because this resource is slowly going to be going down, right? Now, don't worry about that, because that's not the only way that you can actually end up exploring, although it is extremely efficient, especially if you're just kind of trying to run out there and check out the world as quickly as possible. You know, maybe scope out an area, like even just something like this. But now that we've got some compound, we can get to some of the more bulk parts of the game. I know I keep saying bulk, but really these are kind of like the main points of the game, right? But now that we have the compound, let me just get to our tether here. We can construct all sorts of different things. So we can construct a solar panel, which I'm going to make one of these right here just so I can kind of show you, where we can actually put this onto the side slots. There's one on the left side, and then there's one on the right. And so long as the sun is out, we're actually getting more energy from this right here. And the thing that's actually cool, you wouldn't think that this game actually has stuff like that, but it actually does matter where you have the solar power or the fans and stuff like that, like the fan power and everything like that, because if we go into a cave, we're obviously not in the light, so we're not going to be able to generate any solar power. And the thing that's cool about this game is, so long as you end up making a big enough hole, you can actually bring the sun, so long as it lines up properly, you can actually bring the sun down into caves to actually deal with some solar power. But generally speaking, you're going to want a generator for most of that stuff. Now, we can cycle through lots of other stuff. The battery, simply put, is going to let us store more energy, while also, like, the thing that's really cool about this game is all of the stuff that works on our backpack, quite simply put, is going to end up working on all of the built materials as well. So if we end up charging up a battery ourselves while we're out exploring with solar power, we can then end up excuse me, throwing that battery onto the sides here, or even onto the front once we end up constructing something, and then we could actually use that for power on our machines. Now, tethers, that's where the biggest part of the game comes into play, and I'm going to grab one of these right now so that we can go get some more compound and then construct this research station maybe before we call it a day. But tethers are also right now a little bit unstable. I'll talk about that in a minute. The tank is going to be more oxygen, so it's going to operate the same as the battery, where you get to overclock your oxygen. So quite simply put, like, if we end up going out there and rather than gathering that resource, the oxygen resource, it's going to put it into our tanks, which means that we can generally, you know, explore for a lot longer without suffocating, right? The generator is what I was saying before, where you can actually put that on the side here, take organics, and then that's going to drain the organics for power. So that one's very, very efficient and very, very good for the beginning of the game for sure, because of all the vegetation that's around on this planet. Not so much on some of the Arab planets, because I ended up going, like I mentioned, there was I went to all sorts of different planets. There was a volcano planet, there was a moon, and then there was a desert planet. The desert planet did not have that much vegetation, so the generator would not be ideal. You can see our solar power just ended up turning off because now it's turning to nighttime. And a beacon is as simple as you would think. I'm actually going to make this because hopefully we have enough compound to actually gather more of this. But you just leave this on the ground, and that marker right there, you're going to visually be able to see it from pretty much everywhere. Not if you're on like the other side of the planet, obviously, but in most cases. And then we luckily ended up getting some aluminum here so we can craft this wind vine, which is the fan power that I was talking about. So you could either throw it on your suit or just on some of these other mechanics and stuff like that that you have around. Depends. It's entirely up to you. Personally speaking, I would recommend using solar power for your batteries at first, because then, you know, your stations are going to be charging while it's the daytime, while you're just out doing stuff. But yeah, the wind vane is actually very useful, just because for the most part it gets pretty windy. Actually, I don't think we're going to be able to experience it today, sorry to say, but there are storms that will periodically kind of pass over your camp and stuff like that, and you pretty much have to either dig a nice little cave to keep yourself safe or just hide in your pod, right? And then we're right back to the solar. Again, you're going to end up getting more items and more stuff after you research it. Now, one thing that's very, very important I want to point out is you have to go into your ship in order for the game to actually save. In some cases, I've found a little bit of an autosave, but honestly speaking, I don't know if it's an autosave or if you just quit to the title screen, you can join back into your game, because there are definitely issues where if you construct one of these and your character is standing underneath it, you'll actually get stuck. And thankfully, I've been able to get out of that situation where I leave to the title screen and rejoin the game, and my character is still stuck, but at least he can jump once, and then I can leave and come back and jump again and slowly gain altitude so that we can get out of there. But anyways, the tethers. Here's the tethers. They are beautiful. They leave a nice tether from your home base, and this means that not only are we emitting light, also making a nice little path so that we can see where we're going, but we are also getting oxygen from these tethers. So that's where it becomes very, very important to lay these down pretty much everywhere, right? But the whole thing that, you know, the thing that's disappointing is because this game is kind of in alpha and stuff like that, these tethers have some huge frame rate dips. It only ends up happening when you have like a lot of tethers going around all over the place and stuff. Honestly, I thought that it was actually because of the dynamic lighting of these tethers, and having a lot of them around obviously was going to be very graphic intensive because of all the light it has to generate. But I don't think that's the case, because you might not notice it right now, but even right now I'm kind of noticing, like, as soon as you have your tether like stuck to the rest of the tethers, I don't really know how to explain that, but as soon as you end up deattaching, all the frame rate issues end up going away. I don't know what it is about this cord right here that for some reason seems to take like so much of the graphics. Now you can see we got a little bit of wind coming in here. We got our turbine going, and that's going to end up giving us a little bit of extra energy. I'm also going to leave our beacon down here so that we could end up finding our way back to this place. Not that it's like difficult to locate or anything. Usually you'll end up finding these ore pockets like kind of right at the top and stuff. And then of course when you go into caves and everything like that, it's going to be a little bit more dangerous, because not only of fall damage, but also just being in caves, not having resources and stuff like that. And then also there are going to definitely be some deadly creatures that you can end up finding. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're alive or anything like that. It's more like plants or something that might shoot acid at you, but it's still stuck on the wall. And your only real way of combating them is to dig them, and then they kind of end up falling. And I guess that counts as them being dead. Yeah, we got a little bit more compound here, which is perfect. And then we're going to go back, craft that research station so I can show you what that's about. And then we'll probably try I want to try and show you what you can find out in the world. Like, hopefully I can find like a crashed spaceship or something interesting, and then we'll call it a day. But otherwise, now that we come back here, we put our compound in, craft the research station. And again, you're going to have to craft multiple different pathways to actually get all of the different tables that you got. But you don't want to go overboard because there's not really much of a point. First time playing this game, I honestly didn't know about the tethers. So I just kept building my base out instead of using the tethers. But anyways, now we can put this up here. And as you can see, we don't have any power, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to be day right now. So let's see whether or not, hopefully the wind turbine, no, see, it's a little bit too low right now, so it's not going to end up actually getting any of the wind from the distance. Maybe I can lower a bit of the terrain and kind of clear it up. Oh man, that's so beautiful, I love it. Maybe I can get enough of it out of the way that this could actually do something, or maybe if we had it on elevated ground, it would probably end up working all right, but no, it doesn't seem like it's going to. So let's just throw the solar power on. And while this thing is charging, because it's not charging just yet. Oh, now it is. There we go. So that's going to take a little while. And again, we could throw batteries on the sides. That would make things go a little bit faster. Even throw the turbine on the side, and that'll make it go faster as well. Another thing, too, I want to say passively, too, even though we don't have a smelter right here, but with a smelter, you're going to want to make sure that these side slots are empty, because you can actually smelt 4 items at once. And although it is recommended, because pretty much when you're smelting or doing anything with any of the mechanics, it's going to take the entirety of the battery, right? So if you're smelting 1 ore at a time, taking all of the battery power each single time, of course it's going to be more profitable to just do 4 items at once. But I ended up putting a couple different resources on, and I guess the game didn't calculate that the side seats were full. So it just constructed one at the top spot, and what normally happens is it shoots that onto one of the side slots, and then we'll end up constructing the other one. In my case, it just constructed the ore, kept it there, and deleted one of them to construct another one and another one. So it ended up just deleting 4 pieces or 3 pieces of ore just so that it could make one. But anyways, now we can research this. Perfect timing. And see whether or not we end up gaining anything. There we go. So we got a blueprint out of this instead of a resource. What did we end up actually getting out of it? Let's find out. So we got a fuel condenser, which let me find out if that is actually something on here, or is that something that we would construct? Yeah, so it's definitely something that we would construct, but we don't have any resin right now. See, this is where things could end up going pretty crazy, and we could check all that stuff out. But honestly speaking, we're gonna check that out when I start a full Let's Play of this game for sure, because otherwise, yeah, we could construct the building and so on and so forth, and the game is just going to keep on going and going and going. That's the thing that's beautiful about it, but at the same time, like, it's definitely one of those games that can end up eating up a lot of time very, very quickly, like seriously, because it's one of those kind of like catch the spider to swallow the fly things, where you construct all of this stuff so that you can end up making a battery, so that you can have more power to venture out further and further, so that you can get more stuff, and so on and so forth, right? And even then, you're trying to go to the other planets so that you can end up getting different resources that you can then use to upgrade your gear to get more resources, and so on and so forth. Honestly speaking, I don't really know where the end of this game is. It might not be that type of game. It might just be about the general experience. But you can see right here, we got a little crashed pod. These are always really, really good for resources, and you gotta be careful too, because sometimes it will actually generate upside down, and then you have to dig a hole under it to flip it around. But we did end up getting one of these little boxes right here, and these usually end up containing some pretty good stuff. So maybe we'll go hop back to home base here and see if I have enough time to go and grab some of the compound. Or maybe we already have enough. Oh, never mind. It doesn't need compound. Rip me. We need energy, which we do have. So let's actually check what this is before we call it a day, everybody. And okay, we got some blueprints, because that's the thing, is they're kind of like loot crates, where they can either end up generating a blueprint and giving you all sorts of new crazy things, like right there, a truck. I never saw that before. That's exciting. Or you could end up getting, oh boy, here comes a sandstorm. Or you can just get raw materials. Oh my goodness gracious. It looks like it's just passing us by, thank goodness. The way that this ends up operating is pretty much if you're in it, rocks are going to generate in the air and they're going to get thrown at you. On some of the other deadlier planets, it's bigger rocks that are going to get thrown at you, and they're going to be a lot more dangerous. Now, I love how in this game he doesn't actually close the door. But another thing too, just to give you a quick hint at later on grinding, is this little pod right here. You can actually make that at a vehicle station so that technically you could carry that out anywhere on the planet and set up another base. And just to say in passing as well, because it's going to take a while before we get to that point, when I do start a Let's Play of this game, I'll be sure to put a link in the description when I do start the series in case you're interested. But when you end up constructing a spaceship, it's going to take a certain amount of fuel to launch into orbit, and then you can actually pick and choose specific landing spots that are generated on the planet. You don't get to control the ship or anything like that, but you can take even more of your fuel to go further out, and then hopping from planet to planet is actually a bit difficult because of the I don't know the technical term, but there might be, you know, you got our main planet right here, and we got the moon rotating around us. Then we got a fire planet that's rotating further out. And then we have a radiated planet that's just outside of our rotational pole, and it's too far for us to actually fly to. However, the rotation of the planets is actually a thing, so in some cases, if you wait long enough, that radiated planet might have a small window where it gets close enough to the main, to the planet that we're on, that we could actually fly to it. It's just nice little touches like that that completely fill this game and make it an absolute treat to play it. And also, I guess I should mention in closing that this game's multiplayer as well. Granted, it's a bit buggy. You gotta be careful. Lots of people are running into plenty of crashes. The only thing that I really ran into is these tethers down the line start draining your frame rate like crazy so long as you're attached to them. But otherwise, as soon as I went off-world, you know, it totally resolved the issue. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Anyways, thanks for watching, though, folks. And again, with the multiplayer being all broken and stuff, I was actually playing with a friend, and his save file ended up getting corrupt, and it corrupted all the saves because, unfortunately, this game only has one save file, and there's no autosave near as I can tell. It's all manual saving. So remember to hop in your ship every time that you get the chance, everybody. And then also on top of that, if your file ends up getting corrupted, rip. But otherwise, here are the other save files that you can just seamlessly warp down to the world, and there you go. Actually, you know what? Just for kicks, let me see. I'm gonna hop down on where is it? Let me hop down if this is the right planet here. Okay, that was weird and actually took me a couple tries to figure it out. It seems that the most recent file is going to be the closest to the characters, while the least recent file that you played on is gonna be the furthest away, and it doesn't seem to actually label them or anything like that. But here's that sand planet I was talking about. I just wanted to give you a sneak peek of this and say thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. Sign off, folks, and stay epic.